On this edition of Fulton Law and Justice, the Chief Judge of Fulton's Juvenile Court talks about efforts underway to help steer youth in the right direction. And you'll hear from him in Our Children, Our Future segment. And later, Fulton's justice partners joined the U.S. Attorney's Office to find jobs for inmates just released from incarceration. I'm Jolene Butts Freeman. Fulton Law and Justice begins now. Welcome to Fulton Law and Justice, your inside look at the work of Fulton's justice partners. Well, today we begin with news from the head of the largest juvenile court in Georgia. As you may know, juvenile court hears all cases involving allegations of dependency of children under 18, children in need of services under 18, and delinquency and traffic violations concerning children under 17. So what's happening with Fulton's juvenile court? Well, Thomas O'Connor sits down with Chief Judge Bradley Boyd for the answer in this edition of Our Children, Our Future.
At juvenile court, we see children from all backgrounds and walks of life. There are young people with creativity and energy and smarts and possibility in need of help getting back on track. For us, helping these youth means meeting them where they are and improving their material conditions. In the past 5 years, juvenile court has seen a paradigm shift in its ability to rehabilitate children, restore families, and protect the community. The court has launched a medical clinic, a successful GED and job placement program, and made new partnerships with our local school systems, just to name a few. Joining us today is the man who ushered in these changes and leads the court, the Honorable Chief Judge Bradley Boyd. Judge, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for being here with me. This is a great time to talk.
Definitely. And so to begin, tell us a little bit about juvenile court's philosophy, how it sees its role in the community.
Well, juvenile court has a significant role, not just in the legal system, but in the community. And I think the juvenile court is particularly unique in that regard. When I first became chief judge, it seemed to me that folks who worked at juvenile court were all good folks and they were motivated to do a lot of things. But if you would ask them, what's the mission of the juvenile court, or why are we here, you would get things sounding very different sometimes. All good stuff, but there really was no agreement as to this is what we are and this is what we do. So I brought together the other judges and our management staff, and we spent a lot of time talking about what our mission is and should be. And we developed a mission statement for the court, and half of that mission statement has to do with the community. The mission statement that we developed, which you've somewhat referred to, is we first protect children in the community in the cases that come before the court. We rehabilitate children that need that rehabilitation, and this is all spelled out in the Juvenile Court Code, the law that governs us. But then finally, to restore families, that's part of the code. But the second part of the mission statement is to create opportunities for the community, for stakeholders, for partners, for anyone who's interested in the future of our children to participate in the first half of that. To participate in the rehabilitation, to participate in restoring families, to participate in creating a safe place to live, not just for the children, but for the whole community. So the role of the juvenile court is to facilitate that action that's required by law, but to put it in the context of community so that the whole community is involved in improving the lives of our young people.
That's wonderful, and you really have made many efforts to bring the community in. I know that when you first joined the court, you were kind of had to hit the ground running with the new Juvenile Justice Code in 2014. You led that implementation, and that's been part of the community strategy. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, the new code revision, which went into effect in 2014, and I will say that I was involved in a number of conversations leading up to that, and the legislature fortunately gave us a fair amount of lead time to get prepared to address many of the changes that were made in the new code. The new code addresses, as the old one did, there are sort of three major areas that juvenile court deals with. First of all, delinquency. Children that have committed an offense which would be a crime if committed by an adult. Mm-hmm. The new code pushes that process forward. First of all, before children can be locked up or put into any kind of secure facility, we need to make sure that the persons and the children that are going into those facilities are the ones that need to be there, and the ones that don't need to be there aren't put there. So when a child is taken into custody by the police, we do a risk assessment. Is this someone who really needs to be locked up for the safety of the community? As a friend of mine, Judge Teskey in Clayton County, says we have to be locking up and securing those children that scare us, not the ones that make us mad.
Right.
So there is a disincentive the new code has a disincentive for the use of secure detention except where necessary. It pushes the case forward in a faster process so that the process can be completed sooner and we can get on to what needs to happen next. The new code also created a category called CHINS, Children in Need of Services. This was the old status offense section, where children who are truant, run away from home, ungovernable at home, are no longer just treated like criminals, but we do an assessment and we set up a process that's sort of unique to our court. Before a case is even filed on a child of that age, we refer the family to various kinds of counseling resources and therapy and resources in the community, as well as in the schools, to address some of those needs, and some of those children never even get a case filed in juvenile court. And that's all new. And some of those children, when we discover that what the issues are, may end up going to the Department of Family and Children Services because we recognize issues within the family that are hurtful to the kids. And then the third area that we deal with is dependency, and that's where children have been removed from the home by the Department of Family and Children Services because of safety concerns there. The new code creates a much more robust way of looking at those cases, reviewing them. They come into court very frequently so that we can move forward either to get this family restored and put back together, or if that's not going to happen, that we find some permanent place for this child to be safe and secure and happy and healthy. And it sort of pushes all that forward so that these things happen more quickly and kids are not caught in sort of a limbo waiting for other people to do what needs to be done.
And as I understand it, this is the first time Georgia's updated their juvenile code since about the 70s, I think the late 70s?
Yeah, and it's the most comprehensive revision that I think has been done at all. And really there was a lot of work that went into this. People from the bar, the Young Lawyers Association, worked on this for probably 6-7 years before it finally came to fruition. And the code that we developed is really almost a model code, is being looked at by a number of states. We have a very progressive, good code that science-based, evidence-based. The things that we are doing is based on research, based on best practices.
And it sounds like it's really given the court more leeway to do more for children. Speaking about doing more for children, I understand that we opened up a medical clinic earlier this year. Could you tell us a little about that, what went into it?
After some conversations with AmeriGroup, who is the Medicaid provider for all the children in foster care, it was simply casual conversation. I was talking with the folks at AmeriGroup, and we were telling them about our in-school LEAP program. And someone said, half jokingly, well, now all you need is a medical clinic in the court. And, but nobody laughed. And so AmeriGroup said, that sounds like a great idea. Let's talk about it. We talked about it. And now 2 days a week, we have medical personnel that are coming into the court, setting up a clinic for physicals. We have a mobile dental clinic that sets up in the parking lot. And we are now providing healthcare services, behavioral healthcare services, physical healthcare, dental services for children and families in the court on 2 days a week.
Wow, that's excellent. And you mentioned LEAP. I understand LEAP, they launched about late 2016. And could you give us a little update on their status now?
LEAP is a program that we started with a grant from the Eckerd Foundation, and they gave us resources for a curriculum, for a teacher, for a teacher's aide. We got computers that had been excess computers from the county. We have desks, and we set up a classroom in our court building for a capacity of 15 students. These are kids that have been put out of school for whatever reason. They can't go anywhere. They're on the street. And so we set up this program, and they can do credit recovery if they want to get back into the school system. Most of them enrolled in a GED program. And so far, we have awarded 7 GEDs.
Wow.
We have 3 students that are enrolled in Atlanta Area Tech.
Great.
We have 5 that have jobs, and we still have a full house, and I think we have a waiting list. We really hope to be able to expand that. Recently, we've opened conversation with the Urban League to accept some of their students, some of their clients for the GED portion of our program.
Excellent.
In exchange for them then working with job readiness for the ones that we graduate.
And that's not all we're doing with education. I was checking the numbers earlier today, and it looked like we had a 50% decrease in school-based referrals, basically kids coming to court from the school. Could you tell us what's behind that shift? That's huge.
That was a result of our School Pathways program. That was a technical assistance grant we got from the National Council of Juvenile Court Judges. And Judge Renata Turner has been heading that up for us. But we set up the program to set up memorandums of agreement with Fulton County schools and Atlanta schools so that these minor incidents that happened at school, the kind of thing that when I was a kid I'd have a conference with the teacher. I won't say I did have a conference. I said this kind of thing would happen.
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically. Fights at school, arguments, disruptions at school. Technically, they can be charged as a crime and sent to juvenile court and put through the court system, and that's happened way too much. This is sort of a return, and from my perspective, just sort of a return to common sense as to how we deal with some behavior issues at school. So we've set up agreements with them that some of these very minor offenses that in the past have been sent to juvenile court and entered into the court system are now handled with alternate disciplinary means in the schools. And just by working with them and training the personnel at the school, especially the school resource officers, the law enforcement officers who are assigned to the schools, as to how to intervene and train and work in these situations, we've made significant reductions on the number of children that are coming to court, the number of children that are being arrested. We're simply keeping them out of the system.
And looking ahead, what's your vision for juvenile court?
Well, we have we have a great staff. I've got a great bench of colleagues, and we have so much imagination and energy that my vision is to simply keep the folks engaged who are doing all this work. And we have so many folks from the community that are involved. We have mentoring programs, we have volunteer programs, we have a chess club for kids that draws on members of the community. We have mentoring on Saturdays. We have a volunteer that comes in and talks with grandparents. So it's to sort of keep building and to keep the imagination flowing, and we're showing great results for what we're impacting in the community. Our vision for the future is to continue to link up with resources that are building in the community. We are in the process now of working with with the police department and some community resources there. It's just, I guess, to keep doing what we're doing and do more of it.
Sounds good. And so in closing, is there anything we didn't get to that you'd like to mention?
Well, that folks that are interested in what's going on at the court, we invite them to come take a look. And if you are interested in participating in what we're doing at the court, come on down. We've got things for you to do.
Judge, once again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Our Children, Our Future. Looking for more information on the juvenile court? Here it is, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Tom. Still to come on Fulton Law and Justice. Navigating the busiest courthouse in the state just got easier. We'll explain. Fulton Justice Partners, government officials, and workers celebrate the grand opening of the new Welcome Center inside the Lewis R. Slayton Courthouse. Now, why is this a big deal, you ask? Well, because the Fulton County Courthouse is the busiest courthouse in the state. Take a look.
It fits a need that our customers, the public, have expressed they've wanted for years and years. This is a complicated building. You can come in on Pryor, you can come in on Central, and there's no sense of where you need to go. The deputies are hard at work making sure it's safe, but it's not their job to say, here's where this courtroom is, here's where this office is. This fills that need, it fills that void. It's for people can go, quick touch, now I know where I need to go. They may get a form and be on their way, and they're done in 5 minutes rather than 3 hours.
Truly, it was a lot of folks in a lot of different areas that not only allowed this to happen, had the vision for it, but now staff and support it. So truly when folks walk in, they get a good experience with Fulton County, and I think by estimates there's almost 600,000 folks that come through these doors every year. So there's plenty of opportunity for people to get a good experience with Fulton County.
It was very important for us to have a central place to provide information to the hundreds of citizens and, in effect, customers that come through the complex on a daily basis.
We didn't know what the response would be. We knew that a few people would come because they were getting lost and needed help and needed access to the courts. We didn't know that within 2 weeks, 4,000 people would stop at this front desk. Today, we are now working at about 300 to 400 people per day.
Now, I don't think we will ever make it fun coming to this courthouse, but we have made it a whole lot more easier.
And there's one more piece of important news to share with you about the Fulton County Courthouse. The entrance on the Prior Street side is undergoing a facelift with some needed renovations. There's noticeable scaffolding on steps of the courthouse and along the sidewalk. However, the entrance is still open. This exterior courthouse construction project will take at least 3 years. When we come back, a special partnership with the U.S. Attorney's Office to help former inmates succeed once they are released. Stay with us. For many years, Fulton's justice partners have discussed ways to address recidivism so that inmates don't reoffend and come back to the Fulton County Jail. Well, the governor and the U.S. Attorney's Office are also concerned about recidivism, which is why attention is also being focused on helping inmates to land jobs once they are released. Here's a part of a special documentary on this very topic, produced by the U.S. Attorney's Office.
This is the governor of the state trying to help them, and they still have trouble.
The honeymoon stage when you come home lasts exactly 30 days.
I mean, they're excited for the day that you come home. The next day, everything is back to, people have to go back to work.
I failed so many times in life, and I'm tired of failing.
I've been arrested at least 60 to 65 times.
Everyone, when they come home, just really wants two things: a job, and they want a place to live.
It's time to think differently about reentry. People do need to be punished for their crimes. That's our job. But when this punishment is over, when their sentence is served, these citizens are going to be rejoining our communities in numbers of over 600,000 across the country each year. So when they return, these citizens, they need to be able to reconnect with their families. They need to find a job. They need to take care of their children. But they can't do that if they can't find housing, if they can't find a job, if they can't get their needed mental health treatment, and they can't support themselves. So we just need to rethink some of the obstacles that are making it prohibitively difficult for these citizens to make it when they return, so that they don't turn back to a life of crime, so they don't reoffend. And we need to offer help and support where that's needed.
The most important thing, not to step on no toes up here, in my opinion. I'm not coming from a level of academia. I'm not an attorney, all right? I'm not a lawyer, a prosecutor, none of that. I don't work in law enforcement. I'm not just like you, yeah, but I come from your situation. As a matter of fact, I used to be here, dealing with bull jumps, bum bays, and officer sheets. Yeah, I used to be here too. I ain't gonna go too deep in that my story. I don't have the time. The scope is too great, but I'm gonna tell y'all this. The honeymoon stage when you come home lasts exactly 30 days, broken down to 4 weeks. Week 1, we happy to see you. Such and such is back. Great, we gonna get you an outfit, take you to the club. or in some cases throw a dinner. Week 2, you got a job yet? You been looking? You ain't been there a full month yet, but you have ran my leg twisted up. You don't even be there. This your mama, your daddy, your brother, and your sister. These ain't strangers. These the people you love the most. They were poor before you went in. They're gonna be poor when you get out.
Because I actually went in prison when I was 18. So when I got out, I was still 18 years old mentally. And so you're just talking about a young man that was tied up in a grown man's body. And so I was excited. It was like a new experience for me. But when I got out, it was totally different than what I had expected. It was totally different from what I had planned because the challenges was a lot different. And I realized that I had went, by me going to prison at such a young age, I didn't have an opportunity to take on the responsibility as an adult. So when I got out here, man, not knowing how to balance checks, not knowing how to turn on lights, not knowing how to apply for an apartment, not knowing how to fill out an application, do a resume. Shoot, to some point, not even know how to go grocery shopping. Because when you're a convicted felon, of course, you're going to be rejected a lot. The most challenging part was I had to smile even when I wanted to frown or cry. You know, I had to keep smiling because I was determined to be successful, and I was determined to make it. But like I say, when you're in prison for so long and things are given to you, everything is just laid out for you, you get out here and now you have to, do everything yourself. So,
My name is Nathan Deal. I'm the governor of the state of Georgia, and I am in my 7th year as governor. First of all, we were on an unsustainable path in terms of cost. A significant portion of our state's population found itself entwined in our justice system, and it just was something that needed to be changed. Well, as a young assistant district attorney, which was early in my legal career, I just noticed that there were the same faces that kept appearing before the court. Now, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention at that stage of my career as to how do you stop that. I just knew that this was a frustrating fact of seeing the same people, usually back for the same kind of offenses, and in hindsight, realizing that most of those reappearances were based on addictions. Later, I became a juvenile court judge. My frustration there was that I didn't have very many choices or alternatives. I could either send them to our state system for juveniles and lock them away, or I could return them back to the home and the environment in which they got in trouble in the first place, with very little effort to be able to change the direction of their lives. Neither of these alternatives were very satisfactory. So those were two of the background pieces, I think, that caused me to look at this in a serious fashion.
When I was a child, I didn't really have a lot of professional dreams as far as like what it was I wanted to do. It was a lawyer who lived in my neighborhood, and he owned a lot of the houses around us. So where I grew up at, most of the houses were either drug houses or was a low-income house with a single parent. The only houses that really were nice, he owned all of them, and he kept his properties up really well. So I didn't know a lot about what he did, but I liked his lifestyle. So I thought to myself, I could be a lawyer because I saw the lifestyle he lived. And then once I got older, that's when I started seeing all the drug dealers, and I started noticing how their lifestyle was. And because I didn't really know the lawyer and I didn't know how he became a lawyer, I decided it would be easier to be a drug dealer and live that lifestyle because it seemed more in reach. I've been arrested at least 60 to 65 times, at least. Once I got arrested right here for the first time, it seemed like a cycle. It seemed easier. Every single time, it just seemed more normal. And just in one county, in a 6-year time period, I've been arrested for over 15 felony offenses, spanning from drugs to guns to all kind of different things. And sitting back looking at that sheet of paper and looking at what my life used to be and how I used to be, it blew me away just to see how short of a time period that is and how much I did in just that short of a time period.
My parents left when I was 15 years old. And at that time, my world was so different. I was so independent and I wasn't used to just listening to anybody. And so when I went into the system, I was nervous, I was scared. I seen everything from TV to my friends telling me what it's like in prison. And being Asian American going in there, I knew that I was gonna be a big minority. Years later, I'm given a piece of paper letting me know that, hey, on this date, you're gonna be released. And so the feeling of being released is like almost winning a championship or going to the Super Bowl, because it's like this title that you didn't expect to get, that you never thought it was coming, because when you're behind bars, you wouldn't think that you would get out one day. It's so far, and then when you're finally at the finish line, you can see yourself getting out. It's almost unreal. Believe it or not, we judge ourselves because we kind of believe where we stand in society based off what people tell us. You know, you can't get this job because you have a background check. You can never be in a financial industry because you have a criminal record. And then you start believing this stuff, you start giving into this stuff, and that's when recidivism and things that happen, like doing what you're used to doing, selling drugs or going back to the old ways, because you kind of disbelieve that, oh man, when I was in prison, I thought I was gonna be a overcomer. I thought I was gonna be this achiever. And then reality sets in that you can't do this, you can't do that. And you start believing in it. And once you disbelieve that you can believe to do something, that's when everything kind of just crumbles. If you can't believe in yourself, how can you convince somebody else to believe in you?
Now you can see the entire documentary periodically here on FGTV, and you can also check it out online. Fulton County has committed itself to serving its residents in 6 priority areas. The strategic goal for Fulton's Justice Partners is making sure that all people are safe. On Fulton Law and Justice, we show you how Fulton's law enforcement and justice partners are doing that every day, and how they serve and in the programs they provide to enhance the lives of people young and old. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this edition of Fulton Law and Justice. I'm Jolene Butts Freeman. We'll see you next time.